Welcome to my views and news. Viewers, Amhara Oromo tensions are reaching a new high. Conflict seems to be increasing. Several statements, protests, counter protests. At least one casualty is being confirmed in Addis Ababa in clashes which happened yesterday at a school between Oromo Amhara students. We have details for you of what is happening. Amhara Oromo OFC chairman spoke a few hours ago and he also used very strong language. He referred to historical grievances when Oromos were allegedly massacred by Emperor Menelik II. What did he say? Details for you. Azima spoke to Addis Ababa mayor spoke a few hours. So you see that everything is pointing towards a serious confrontation between Amhara and Oromo ethnic groups. Now, it started from Valaga, where on weekend hundreds of innocent civilians were killed. The two groups, Amharas, Oromos, and Tigrayans as well, they claimed that killed were from their group. Especially Amhara and Oromo sides, they kept on exchanging accusations. Jawar stepped in and he said that government was not playing its role in the resolution of the conflict. He said protests were fire which were happening in Oromia. Protests erupted after Valaga killings on weekend, and for the last 3 days we have seen massive protests across Oromia at universities, at educational institutions, and now counter protests have started in Amhara region too. Today in Debre Morkos, Gajam, a protest was held and at Magdala University in the Amhara region, Amhara students protested. So you see that protests were held in Oromia in the last 3 days. And today, a counter protest started in the Amhara region as well. Yesterday, Azima party leader Baronaga said that civilians should be armed in areas where they are vulnerable. So he was implying that Amharas in Valaga should be armed. Jawar responded, he said the suggestion was irresponsible and irrational. You see statements, counter statements, protests, counter protests. That is what is happening. Tensions are rising. And today, Professor Murira Gudina of Oromo Federalist Congress Party held a very explosive press briefing. He referred to some historical grievances between Oromos and Amharas. He said, our hands were cut. Our breasts were cut and now our necks are being cut. He was definitely referring to what happened in the 19th century. Oromos are of this view that in the 19th century, Emperor Menelik II massacred thousands of Oromos. Breasts of women were cut by the orders of the emperor. So Viragdena is saying that same is happening now. Our necks, Oromo's necks, are being cut in Valaga. It was a very explosive press briefing by Murira Gudina. Then another issue, not a new one, an old issue which is now being seen again, and that is hoisting of Oromia flag in Addis Ababa, which has been a disputed issue between Amhara and Oromo locals at schools of Addis Ababa. Oromo regional anthem, Oromia regional flag are hoisted, and Parents, students who have been opposing hosting of Oromia region's flag at Addis Ababa schools are protesting. Yesterday, a protest was held at a secondary school in Addis Ababa. And then we saw a statement from Addis Ababe and Oromo, who is the mayor of Addis Ababa. She said that Oromo culture is not being imposed on anyone. Parents should advise their children. Then spoke Azima. Azima criticized Addis Ababe. And just a few minutes ago, it was shared by some news outlets that in yesterday's clashes at a secondary school in Gurara, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital, one student was killed. Clashes were over hoisting of Oromo region's flag at a school in Addis Ababa. Clashes were between Oromo and Amhara students. Some students were detained, some were injured. A teacher was injured too, and at least one casualty is being confirmed in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital, at Gurara High School. So you see that all the ongoing developments indicate that tensions between Oromo ethnic group and Amhara ethnic group are rising. And so far, no de-escalation. The two sides have not made any calls for restraint, any calls for dialogue. Rather, we are seeing that Amhara leaders are supporting the position of Amhara ethnic group. And same is happening in the case of Oromo leaders. Rira Gudina, Jawar, Addis Ababe, they are supporting Oromo's position about what happened in Valaga. So it's a very rapidly evolving situation. The peace which was being hoped after the conclusion of Tigray conflict is yet to be achieved. It means there are unsettled issues between different ethnic groups in Ethiopia, and there will not be lasting peace in Ethiopia if these issues remain unresolved. How long will protests in the Oromia region continue? Oromia regional government is not stopping these demonstrations, though we have seen some action by security forces and protesters in a few areas. Overall, Oromia regional government is not stopping these demonstrations, and Jawar is threatening the government should not arrest protesters. Jawar, Baklegarba, both out of Ethiopia, and from abroad they are backing these demonstrations. There was relative silence in the Amhara region yesterday, day before yesterday. But today we saw start of counter demonstrations there, Debre Morcos at a university. And reportedly, protests are going to intensify in the Amhara region if there is no constructive engagement between the two sides, ethnic Oromos and Amharas. I think the leadership should play its role. Oromo and Amhara leaders, they should try to find a solution. They should not fuel tensions, because their statements matter a lot. What Professor Maria Gudina said today, it will lead to further conflict. This is not the time to refer to historical grievances of 19th century. Amharas can also refer to such historical grievances. This is the time to control the situation, because people are already emotionally charged. They are angry. Hundreds have been killed. Of course, killed are from both ethnic groups, Amhara, Oromo. Majority of the kill, what we have learned, was from the Oromo ethnic group. But some Amharas have been killed. And we know that in Valaga, in some past massacres, hundreds of Amharas were killed. So both groups are dying. Members of both groups are dying, and both are protesting. Who will mediate? Who will resolve this conflict? Ethiopian federal government, will it intervene? Which it must. But government is largely silent. No constructive intervention from the federal government to de-escalate the situation. Meanwhile, opposition parties will use this anti-government sentiment against the government. Oromo Federalist Congress, Jawar, Bakle Garba, Oromo Liberation Front, they'll try to cash in on this anti-government sentiment by backing these demonstrations. Same will happen in Amhara region as well, that opposition parties, they'll try to fuel the conflict to put pressure upon PP-led government in the Amhara region. So, responsibility lies on the shoulders of governments, regional government, Amhara, regional government, Oromia, and federal government. So far, the governments are nowhere to be seen. People dying. And now in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital, this issue of hoisting a flag is not a new issue. Why is it still unresolved? Why can't the parties sit and decide which flag will be hoisted at schools of Addis Ababa? Addis Ababa is Ethiopian capital and capital of the Oromia region too. Thank you for watching.